Hello everyone, today we will be writing quadratic equation in intercept form and general form when a table is given, or table of values is given. So we have here the general form, so y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. The intercept form is y equals a parentheses x minus p, x minus q. The p and the q here are the x-intercept of the graph. Now let's have an example to better see how do we go over getting the general form and intercept form when we have a table. So we have a table over here. Okay, so this is a table of values. This table is actually, it's gonna form quadratic, it's a quadratic function and it's gonna form a parabola. So our task is to determine what is the intercept form of equation for this and what is the general form of equation that would work for this table. So these are the steps. So first step is to write the equation in intercept form. So that is y equals, so I'm gonna write y equals a x minus p and then x minus q. Okay, now how do we determine what is the x and what is the p and what is the q? We look at the table, we look for the y that has 0 on it. So only the y. The y should be 0. We look for it and we put it inside the box. So this is having a y equals 0. And this is having a y equals 0. Again, we do not look for the x that is 0, the y that is 0. And we put it inside the box. Now, the thing is, whatever is on the x, this one right here would be our p. And this one right here would be our q. It doesn't matter which way you put. This can be q, this can be p. It doesn't matter. So we plug the value in. So that's gonna be y is equal to a x minus our p that we got here. Let's say our p is -3. So I'm gonna write -3. And then I close the parentheses here. And then I got another x. My q here is +1. So I go ahead and say minus. It's a +1. So I don't put a negative in there. And so that's part of the first step. So -3, I put it as a p. 1, I put it as a q. And then from here, I simplify it. So this would be y is equal to a parentheses. Negative and negative becomes a positive. X plus 3 and then x minus 1. Okay, we move on to the next step. The next step is use one of the points to solve for a. It doesn't matter which of these points you would want to use, but I would recommend we use the small numbers. So let's take, for example, this. So we are going to use this as our point for step 2. So I will label this as my x and I will label this as my y. So then I plug this this 2 and 10 into this equation over here. So our equation for this would come out to be our y is 10. So I write 10 equals our a is missing, parentheses. Then we put the x here, which is the x here is 2. And then plus 3, parentheses. Again, the x was 2, so I put the 2 over here. And then minus 1, and then parentheses. And then I am going to solve for a. That's what it says here. So we are going to simplify this. This would be 10. So this is 10 is equal to a times 5. 2 plus 3 is 5. Times 2 minus 1 is 1. So this becomes 10 is equal to 5 times 1 is 5a. So then I divide both sides by 5. So I'm going to divide this by 5. I'm going to divide this by 5. So then we cross the 5 out. So our a is 10 divided by 5 is 2. So then our equation for to get the equation in intercept form, we are going to plug this a back into the equation that we got from the first step. So that means our equation in intercept form is this, but we plug in the a in there. So y is equal to 2 parentheses x plus 3 parentheses x minus 1. This is our intercept form. So we will label this as the intercept form of this equation. So the equation that will work for this would be this. This is the intercept form. Now, we are asked to find for the general form. To find the general form, this is what we do. We are going to use the area model for this one. So I'm going to use the area model for this. So I'm going to use the box to multiply these two. So that would be x plus 3. So that is x and then 3. X minus 1. So then this becomes x squared. 3x negative 3. So then if we simplify this, this would come out to be, I'm going to use a different color for this. So this would be y is equal to 2 parentheses x squared. This is 2x and then minus 3. So x squared 2x 3. And then but then we can still simplify this by distributing the 2 in each of the terms inside the parentheses. So then our equation would come out, which is going to be the general form, would be equal to y equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 6, because I distributed it to each term inside the parentheses. And this is our general form. So we got both the intercept form and the general form. At this time, I would encourage you to pause this video and try this problem out on your own. And when you're done, unpause it and check your answer. Okay, so we go over this. It's pretty much the same thing. So y is equal to a parentheses x minus p, x minus q. And so we go here and look for the where the 0 is y. So it's gonna be this one and this one right here. So we can name this as our p, and this will be our q. So then we plug it in to the back into the equation. So that would be y is equal to a parentheses x minus negative 1 and then x minus 2. So then we go ahead and write y is equal to a parentheses x plus 1 and then x minus 2. So that's the first step. Second step is to choose a number that would work. It doesn't matter which way you would want to pick, but I would recommend we pick the smaller one. So that would be our x and this would be our y. So then this would be plugged into the equation over here. So our y is 2 is equal to a parentheses, our x is 3 plus 1. Again, we use this. The 2 goes here, which is the y. The x is going to be plugged into each of that. So that's 3 plus 1 and then 3 minus 2. So then we get 2 is equal to a. 3 plus 1 is 4. 3 minus 2 is 1. So this becomes 2 equals 4a divided by 2 from both sides. 4 divided by 4 divided by 4. So we can cross that out. So a is actually 1/2. So a is 1/2. Now, the next thing that we are going to do is we plug this back into the first equation for a, and we can come up with the intercept form would be y is equal to 1/2, which is the a, parentheses x plus 1 parentheses x minus 2. And so this is our intercept form. So this is the intercept form. To find the general form, we are going to multiply this using the area model. So that would be a 2 by 2 box. So this is x and then negative 2 and then x and 1. So this is x squared, x negative 2, x negative 2. So then we can simplify this to be y is equal to 1/2 times x squared. And then we add these two, so that would be a negative x minus 2. And then distribute the, we're going to distribute the 1/2 to each term inside the parentheses. So distribute the 1/2. So our final equation here would be y is equal to 1/2 x squared minus 1/2 x. Half of negative 2 is a negative 1. And this is our general form. So this is the general form right here. So I'm going to label this as the general form. Did you get the same answers as this? Good. Perfect. If you find this video helpful, hit like and subscribe for more math videos. See ya!